05.
05, and then Pat Finn, who's a project manager for us. Not a Falmouth High School graduate, but a South Shore graduate. So just a little bit about our company. We have 235 plus employees. That varies depending on project size, location. We have 2 offices, one in Falmouth as mentioned, and we have one in Quincy. The Falmouth office, we have roughly between field staff, meaning superintendents, assistant superintendents, we have roughly around 80 to 90 employees located in Falmouth Tech Park. And then our Quincy offices makes up the rest of that. We do roughly 450 million, it varies, but 450 million, around $500 million a year. And we're the 8th largest in Massachusetts. The type of work that we're involved in is anywhere, and you've probably seen some projects in Falmouth too, but we do a lot of housing, whether it's affordable housing, market rate housing, and market rate housing is condominiums. It could be for sale, could be for rent. Affordable housing, if everyone understands what affordable housing is. We do a lot of healthcare work for Cape Cod Healthcare, for BI Plymouth, for others. We do a lot of commercial construction. When we get into commercial construction, that can be many things. It could be office space, it could be a fire station, it could be a police station. We've done all these things. On Cape Cod, we did the Cape Cod 5 in Hyannis. I don't know if everyone's ever drove by that on, was that one?
Hyannis Road.
Hyannis Road. 132. So we finished that project a couple of years ago. We do academic, so schools, building a charter school right now in New Bedford, Alma Del Mar, and that's finishing up. Actually, next week we're going for a final inspection, so we'll be turning that over. And then we do other cool commercial projects. For instance, we've done a lot of work at Gillette Stadium, a lot of work for the Kraft family, building their private residences here on the Cape, working on the private residence up in Brookline. We did Tom Brady's house up in Brookline as well, Chestnut Hill area. We built that. Julian Edelman's place in the Back Bay. Who else? Okay, so for clients, we travel, right? And we do things, not typically work we go after, but if a client comes to us, we'll follow a good client pretty much anywhere they want to go. Any questions?
Was it awesome at Tom Brady's house?
It was a cool project. It was a lot of imported materials. So his brick facade is from a castle in Belgium that they took apart, shipped it over. Everything is from Europe, all over the world. So part of our job, right, is to coordinate, make sure we have those materials, so we follow a schedule that we don't slow down because we don't have the materials. Now, when you're dealing with a private residence, it's totally different than a commercial construction job. You're dealing with architects. The architect for this is a big-time architect out of LA that does all celebrities' houses. So you're working with an architect on the West Coast that comes out once in a while, a lot of calls, especially nowadays, everything's done via Zoom or Teams. So we had a lot of meetings, but a lot of design changes on the fly when you're doing that type of work. Same thing when we did Robert's house on Pompanesett Island. You know, one thing he wanted this house, he had to have his summers. He was afraid that he'd lose his grandkids if he didn't start in time. So we tore it down the day after Labor Day, and he wanted to be done by 4th of July the following year. We're pretty much substantially complete, and that's a 13,000 square foot house. So you can imagine the amount of manpower, over 100 men a day on that site, managing that, running 6-7 days a week to make that happen, and dealing with design changes as you go. One good story that I tell everybody is that we had framed in the entrance and we're completely weather tight, framed in the entrance, and Myra Kraft, his wife, comes down, Myra Kraft at the time, and looks at it and says, God, that looks like a Cyclops, rip it off. This is the whole entrance, we're done, we're weather tight, we're inside finishing. And I looked over at his right-hand man, Kraft's right-hand man, and said, she's serious? He goes, yeah, we'll need to call. Calls up Robert, turns to me, he said, rip it off, whatever she wants. So on the fly, change like that, you're ripping off a $500,000 entrance, and rebuilding a $500,000 entrance just like that. Those are the type of things you deal with, you get with the private clients, like the private residences.
By Labor Day.
Yep, and we were done. Moved in. Tom Brady's house took about close to 2 years to finish that. Lived there, you know, obviously when he left the Patriots, he sold his house. Just moving on, so a little about me, project executive. As I said, I graduated in 1999 from Falmouth. Went to school down in Florida. Actually, before that, I went to prep school at New Hampton to play baseball. Went down to Florida, played baseball down there, and got my education down there. And when I was down, I was like, you know, do I want to stay here? Do I want to move up? I love the seasons. I love the ski. I love the mountain bike, those types of things. So I said, I'm going to move back up. Move to Boston with some friends that were getting a place. Worked for a company called Harvey Industries, a construction material company. Now, I knew, when I was in high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. But what I do know is that I love doing things with my hands. I love building. I was building ever since, you know, going out in the woods building tree forts when you're, you know, 8 years old, 10 years old, which transformed into, you know, in high school, continue building, whether it's around the house, learning self-taught how to frame, everything else. So I knew I had a passion for construction. I didn't know where that would bring me. I mean, I'm sure everyone in here, you know you like something, you don't exactly know what you're doing. When I was in college, I'm like, well, what am I going to do? Well, I wanted to make money, right? And I think everyone here wants to make money. But at the same point, money's not everything. If you're not happy with what you're doing, you know, you got to go for a passion as well. So, like I said, I worked for Harvey Industries. An opportunity came back up in the Falmouth office of the Cape, and at the time it was called J.K. Scanlon Company. Interviewed for a position, got the job, so I was doing the reverse commute. I was in Boston, I was driving down here, then back up there, reverse commute. It killed me. I couldn't do it. I liked being in the city. I was young, just out of college, didn't want to be on the Cape right away, but eventually said, hey, listen, I can't do this commute every day, it's killing me. Moved back to the Cape, and you know, I've been with the company, J.K. Scanlon, about 8 or 9 years ago, sold to Dellbrook. And I've been on with J.K. Scanlon to Dellbrook now 17 years with the company. So it was a great opportunity, and in life, you really don't know where it's going to bring you. And I just followed a path. Just, you know, opportunity came up, I grasped that opportunity, made a lot of good connections as I went, a lot of good relationships. And I got to tell you, I run into people that I went to high school with that are in the industry, and you just never know who you think now and who down the road, yeah, I'll never run into that person again. I'm telling you, you will. You're going to run into someone that you know or someone that knows somebody. So making the right decisions now, and I'm not going to preach to you about right decisions, but making right decisions now in relationships, those things last forever. So I can't preface that enough, that make sure that you are making the right decisions. So just a little bit about what a project executive does. I manage teams. So a typical team for us is you have a project manager, you have an assistant project manager or two, depending on the size of the project. You'll have what we call a SIP. Our SIP program is kids straight out of college that we bring in and teach industry. You don't have to have construction experience. We bring them in, we teach them the industry, and we're just looking for good attributes, right? You're attentive, you work hard, you show up on time, those types of things. And we bring you in and we teach you construction over a 2-year period where you're in estimating for 8 months, you're in the field for 8 months, and you're in the office for 8 months. And at the end of that period, if things are working out and we feel that you're a strong candidate to offer a full-time position, we'll offer you that position either in the field, office, estimating, and we have everybody goes different ways. So that's a project team within the office. And then in the field, you can have 1 to 4 or 5 superintendents. The superintendent runs the project site. Go ahead.
Is that considered an internship, or is that all?
It is paid.
It is paid, not an internship, not a co-op. You are a full-time employee of Dellbrook JKS, and your title is project engineer.
And you have full benefits, full everything. You're an employee. Prior to that, we do take on interns in the summertime, college interns, and that is paid. It's a paid internship, and you could be out in the field helping, you could be in the office filing, you could be doing anything. But we do take internships on, and I think Pat started as an intern for me how many years ago?
8 years ago.
8 years ago. I think at the time I had a project on the vineyard. I was building a fire station over there, and Pat was an intern coming over with me, and he worked out well. So we said, listen, we want you to come back next year. Okay, he came back next year. I think he gets to his senior year, and we're like, I'm going to offer you a job. We'd love for you to come work for us, and that's how it starts. Who do you want me to move over?
No, I don't. You're all good.
You give me the head shake, or is that like to stop talking?
Yeah.
So just back to the project teams, like I said, you have a superintendent or multiple, you have an assistant superintendent, and you can have a field SIP as well. So what I do as an executive is I manage that entire team. Now, that's one project. I will have 5 to 6 projects going on at one time where I'm managing those teams. In addition to that, I have a lot of pre-con going on. So I'm out there looking for work, meeting clients, and as you build relationships, as I talked about in this industry, the work starts to flow to you as you know this architect, you know this developer, you know this owner, they're calling you when you do a good job for them. Hey, I got this other project, you look at it. So what pre-con is very early on in the project, we have an architect on board, we're going through design, I'm doing cost estimates for them, we're doing logistics plans, how the project site's going to set up, construction schedules, those types of things. So I'll have 2 to 3 of pre-con projects going on at once as well, and then plus BD on top of that. In addition, there's some other roles that a project executive, running a P&L, a profit and loss statement, making sure that our office, our company is driving to the profit that we're predicting. I went to Eckerd College down in Florida, didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do, so I majored in business management. Kind of touched everything. Now, I use a lot of that in my daily. A lot of what I do is communication, foster relationships, make sure my teams are communicating and being successful. A lot to do with numbers. I was always good at math. I loved math. I still love math, and that's something that we use on a daily basis. I do a ton of contract negotiation, whether that's with a sub or typically with me, it's with an owner, architect, whoever it may be. I negotiate a lot of deals, and if there's issues that comes up on the project, I negotiate those deals as well. Do a lot of contract review. Sometimes I feel like a paralegal going through contracts, but very important step to make sure that our company is protected. Any questions?
Yeah, do you have to go to college to get a good job there?
To get a good job at Dellbrook?
Yeah.
No, not necessarily. Superintendents. There's certain positions that we look for college educations, but there's other positions that when we have people that are not college educated. They've been in the construction industry all their life. A superintendent, a superintendent can make, just as much money as myself. It's really endless, the opportunity out there. And then also within a construction company, there's also the trades. When I say the trades, the electricians, the framers, the plumbers. I'm telling you right now, in this market especially, these guys are making, guys and girls are making crazy amount of money. There's opportunity there.
When you mentioned that Pat was an intern, Pat, what was that experience like? How did you get into construction management?
Yeah, go ahead, next slide there. So I went to school at Worcester Polytech. One of my first couple of classes was both business and civil engineering. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew engineering seemed pretty cool. Luckily got into the school I wanted. And it took a couple, years of feeling things out, but eventually I realized that business and engineering together kind of suits well for the construction industry. And we'll get into the different types of business models that we are, markets that we're in. But when I was a sophomore in college, I was able to intern at Dellbrook due to connections and relationships I'd made just in those few short years. And at that time, it was more of an internship program. Greg just mentioned kind of a different career immersion program that we have now. But they gave me a chance. You're able to kind of feel out the industry. You're not super influential at the time, but you kind of make your mark and see if it's right for you, which is something I would tell you guys to try something out, take a risk, and see how it works out. But for Dellbrook, it was a nice match, and like they mentioned, I did 2 summers there during college summers, I should say, and before I even started my senior year, I was able to have a job offer, which it's kind of, when you're in college, it's really what you're trying to find. So I think I really liked working with people. I really like talking to people every day about various disciplines of construction, and it's kind of what got me to make this my career path.
Just to jump in there too, one thing I should have mentioned is, I'm sure some people in here play sports, like sports, right? Love the team atmosphere. Construction, and the owner of our company always says it, it's a team game. So having these teams, it's like being, at times you're on a sports team. We're calling out each other, hey, pick it up, or hey, good job, or I got this, I got that. We're constantly collaborating with each other, holding each other accountable, but in a good way. If you make a mistake, I talk to Pat like he's my brother. Hey, pick it up. You're being beat. But he, it is a team game. It's a team sport, and it really, later in life, you don't, you know, you want to do something that has passion and that the day just, sometimes I look at my clock, I'm like, geez, it's 4 o'clock already. I've been here since 6:30 in the morning and the day just flew by, right? You want it, and then you're thinking at night, I want to get back there to get this done. So, sorry to interrupt you.
I think we'll get into kind of business structure after this guys.
What's going on, everyone? So I kind of had a different path in the industry. I started up when I was 16 years old in the trades. My father owned a masonry firm, so I started up, like I said, when I was 16. Kind of developed from that point on. Kind of ran with that. Noticed that I did love the industry. I wanted to develop myself and kind of get into the commercial construction game a little bit more. I attended Wentworth Institute of Technology in Boston, and I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Construction Management. From then, or should I say from that point, at Wentworth, I did a few co-ops. It's a little bit different of a structure. They have tri-semester, it's a tri-semester school, so we had not internships, but paid co-ops where you have, you know, real field experience, either as, you know, whatever discipline you decide to go to in the field or in the management side. And you kind of get to test things out while you're, you know, there and participating over the years. I did start up full time as an assistant project manager for a different firm and made the move over to Dellbrook last year. I'm from New Bedford, so I decided to kind of move closer to home. It's been great so far. And as you can see, we kind of have a drone video going on in the background here. It's Oxford School residents in Fairhaven that all 4 of us worked on and are still working on. We have a March completion date for the job. But this gives you a little bit of a preview of what we do.
So this is an affordable housing project. We talked about affordable housing. This is 52 units. The brick building is an old school, as it says. So it's a historic renovation. It's a historic building. It's an addition. Obviously, the new construction part is an addition. And currently, that's weather tight. Right now, we're roughed up. And correct me if I'm wrong, guys, because you're in the trenches every day. But we're roughed up with our MEPs, our mechanicals, our electricals, our plumbing, our fire protection. We're drywalling on the first floor, and then the historic building is drywall as well. So we're getting finished. The completion date of this is about 4/15, 5/1, that range. That'll be turned over to ownership, and residents will start moving in there. These are tricky projects as being historic. The new construction, I don't want to say it's easy because no project's easy, but the historic is that you have to match existing windows. You have to go to certain manufacturers. You have to match trim profiles. You have to go into the building prior when you're doing demos, rip out the trim and not break it because you got to reuse that trim down the line. A lot of little nuances to projects like this, but this is currently in the middle of construction and due to finish in probably 5 months. Well, it's better be done in 5 months.
Yep. Go ahead.
I had a question. Do the trade guys work for you? Are they in that 235?
No.
Or they're brought on separately?
They're brought on separately. So we're a GC construction manager. We don't self-perform any work. We hire partners. We call them partners, subcontractors. So it's Joe's Plumbing that we hire, and he has 50 guys. That we don't self-perform. We do have a couple carpenters on board at each office, and the point of the carpenters is that when projects are over, you have a punch list and warranty where owner walks through and says, I don't like this trim, this paint's not good, and if we need our carpenters to do that, or go back to a project that's been done for a year and there's a warranty issue where you need to fix someone. So we do have that type of labor, but everything is subbed out.
Do you get paid to commute to these jobs? You see you travel all over. Do you get paid to commute?
Yeah, so you get, your commute to the office is not paid. But if you got to go from the office to your project site, that you get mileage reimbursement. As you climb the ladder and get to be a project manager, you get a gas card where the company pays for your gas. And then you also can get a car allowance, so you'll get $400 or $500 a month to go to a car.
Well, on average, how long is like the average project?
Average, I'd probably say a year, but we have projects anywhere. Some projects we have are smaller, like the healthcare can be a couple months, but typically it's about a year. And we have projects that go 2 to 3 years as well. We have a project in Cambridge that's a $190 million job that's running multiple years. Weird feedback.
Yeah, no, I'll get you later. Hi. at the end, the last slide has that in
The
there.
end, she's a Falmouth High graduate. too.
That's right, class of 97.
So we have a couple slides that kind of go through
Oh, I got some more questions.
over.
How long have you, like, how long have you guys, like, been, like, going, like, how far have you guys, like, going for the geographic area?
So Dellbrook, our geographic for Dellbrook is Cape and Islands, South Coast, South Shore, Boston, Greater Boston area, North Shore. So pretty much we'll go anywhere in Mass. We work out in Springfield. We'll go into New Hampshire and we're in Rhode Island too. It's client-based at that. Previous company, J.K. Scanlon, I had a project in Virginia, 2 projects in New York, a project in Minnesota, a project in Georgia. So I was traveling quite a bit back then. I can tell you, you might think it's fun, but traveling is not fun, especially when you get a family too, it's even worse. But the current company was we stick to Massachusetts, New England area, we'll travel for clients. That's a good question.
Said the project on the slide right now is
I can't hear you, can you speak up?
50. Said the project on the slide right now was 50. Do you think it was started on the one at Brady's house?
They had the different challenges. Brady's house is more of a hand-holding, high-end client, high-end architect. Not a full set of plans where it says, I want this tile in the bathroom, or I want this. You kind of develop that as you go. So that's why, and the finishes in that house are above and beyond what an affordable housing project, you'll have some standing and running trim will be a 1x4 or a 1x6, where in Brady you can have a 6-piece trim on a door casing. So the quality of carpenters and contractors that you bring on are different than this. This project here is a little bit more straightforward, but you mix in the historic aspect of it and it becomes very, very tricky.
Greg, one thing that might be interesting to show them or have maybe Rye show them is the big challenges in mechanical coordination.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get to that.
You said at a time you manage maybe like even 5 projects at once. If you're an engineer, do you take a signed project and you stay on that project until it's done, or do you move around projects as needed?
A project engineer. So typically your assignment of project engineer is 8 months. You do 8 months in the estimating, 8 months in the field, 8 months in the office, not in that particular order. So after that 8 months, we make a call. I'll talk with Emily and say, listen, we got 4 months left. I'd like to keep this SIP on the project to finish the project. So sometimes it goes into a year. If we put them in estimating, we just know, listen, I can tell you right now, this kid's going to be in the field. Let's not waste too much time in estimating. You know, maybe they go in estimating for 4 months. So we try to stick to the 8 months, but it does vary.
Because it makes you a better project or better construction manager overall to have an understanding of each of those 3 major roles.
Absolutely. Rebecca?
What's like the layout of an average day, like an hour?
Go ahead.
So just going back to that, how many projects you're going to be on, Greg's overseeing a lot of different projects as he's an executive. When you're kind of more in the trenches, like us 3, you have 1 to 2 to 3 projects, so you're really more focused on the day-to-day. Greg has a lot of people under his responsibility there. And what was that question one more time? Sorry.
Just like the layout of an average day.
So an average day, you know, if you're in the office, if you're a field staff, you really start around 6 or 7, 8 o'clock really. You're really working 8 hours a day, but you have to get something done. You know, you could be working more than 40 hours a week. Most people do. But, you know, you're dealing with conflict resolution, you're dealing with documentation, contracts, depending whether you're in the field, in the estimating department, or running work as an operations, you know, project manager, assistant project manager. You're really going through calling people on a day-to-day basis, on an hourly basis, and making sure everything's going smoothly with the project. So there's really a bunch of different things that can go right and go wrong in a job, and it's really our job to make sure everyone's working together, you know, on budget, and making it happen for the owner.
Just to add that too, is that, you know, our office hours are 8 to 5. Typically people are there at 7. You get more done from 7 to 9 than you will from 9 to 3. I'm pretty lenient if Pat comes to me and says, listen, I got to leave at 1 o'clock today because I got to do X, Y, and Z. I don't care. What I look at as a finish, you know, you get your work done. you're getting your work done, if you got to leave, we're pretty lenient within the company for that. Family matters a lot. Family matters a lot to the owner of the company, matters a lot to me, to everyone else. So we allow that to happen, and it creates a better employee. You know, if you say, no, you can't leave because you figure it out on your side, you're going to have a pissed off employee. Huh?
Brian hasn't got to.
All right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What's the largest budget you've had for construction project?
We have going 190 million multiple year market rate housing project in Cambridge. Bunch in the 60 million, bunch others in $120 million range, 40 million. Falmouth office average is probably 15 to 20, 15 million around that range. It's a nice sweet spot for the Falmouth side. But they vary, you know, Cape Cod 5 was a $45 million office building, so it's all over the place. Managing people, managing conflict with people, making sure they're communicating. That takes a lot of my time.
So are you getting paid commission based on is the company getting paid commission based on how many projects and how much the revenue on those projects are, and then it's split out to the employees, or are you getting paid by just you?
So we're all salary based. We have a salary. Don't get commissions. So if I bring in a bunch of projects, I don't get a commission off those projects. But our owner is very good in bonusing out. So we have year-end bonuses at this time of year. So if our company, we make, call it $20 million, right? He'll take a piece of that 20 million and he'll put it aside and say, this is just for bonuses. I want my employees to do well, right? They did a great job this year. They're going to go up to play. So we do. Not all companies get year-end bonuses. We do. The owner of our company, Mike Fish, is very, very nice.
So per se, if you didn't get a single job in a year, you're not getting.
If we didn't get a single job in the year, we'd probably be closing the office down. So it's you get the work. We got to drive. We got to drive the work. Get it, drive it, start it. We're based on what we do for revenue, guys. We'll get to some more questions. I just want to introduce Brian, so he's not sitting here. So just tell you a little about what he does, and we'll keep going with the questions.
I'm Brian. I went to Keene State after graduating Falmouth. Keene State, New Hampshire. I went to school for architecture, graduated with a degree, Bachelor of Science in Architecture. Got with Dellbrook JKS, with JK Scanlon at the time. I was always told while going through school to work construction, to understand how things were built before I'm making drawings, telling people how to actually build them. And I had a relationship with John from when I was younger. He was a coach of mine, and I grew up with his son. So I made a call, got a job, and then after working for a few years, I realized that's where I wanted to be. I didn't actually want to work in architecture. I just wanted to take that knowledge and apply it to this company. I was an assistant project manager like Dave for a few years, and then I got promoted to project manager like Pat for a few more years, and then I was given an opportunity to become a mechanical coordinator, MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection coordinator. So basically everything you don't see, like above the ceiling, the walls, below the floors, I coordinate, make sure it's all going to fit, it's all going to work before we install it. We spend a lot of money redoing things, if not done the right way the first time, so I basically make sure it's all going to work before it even gets to the site. So a lot of people joke that I play video games for a living because everything's 3D on the computer, moving a bunch of stuff around. I have a couple slides later on that show some pictures of, but that's what I do. I basically coordinate what you don't see above ceiling and below foundation, and yeah.
This is a cool project. So we do a lot of the work, almost all the work at Gillette Stadium. Project in 2013.
No, we're going to do 10, 15 minutes. Is that good with you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. You guys are going to give up another 10, 15 minutes of your class or your lunch. And then you're going to talk to me about it later, yes? Thank you.
So Gillette Stadium, I did 2013. I did all the training areas, everything besides the locker room, the meeting areas. Awesome project. They're a training session, so we're doing an area that's a training room, and I'm meeting. Here comes Gronk or Brady walking by, or some of the linemen, Slater. So I got to see all those guys. Very interesting project. Got to meet some really cool people. I can tell you that they're really down to earth. Gronk is a really down to earth dude. But this is another one that you guys see, the Endzone Club. I'm sure you guys seen the North Endzone Club, right? Whoever's been to Gillette or seen on TV, the glass structure. We did that one. We've done pretty much all the bars and the DraftKings around the stadium too. We're currently working on another project up there right now. Stuff we did all the solar canopy and a lot of the Patriot Place stuff too. So it gives you a cool opportunity to meet people, see different things.
Built TV12 too.
Yeah, TV12 built that. The other one's Navisworks Lighthouse. This is a smaller project than we typically do. Everyone knows where Navisworks Lighthouse is, but I'm passionate about doing work within the town. Someone from here was FCTV, but we did that small project for us, but FCTV local from the town. We wanted to do that project as well. Down at the public library, a lot of healthcare work. We talked a little bit about responsibilities, construction manager. Here's your typical team structure. Project executive, you have manager under and superintendent, and you have, kind of my office, or the field counterpart to me is a director of field ops. They run superintendents in many different projects and sites, so they're visiting the jobs, making sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. A lot of checks and balances. Just more of what we talked about. So this is construction technology, Brad. You want to talk about this? This is a 3D model.
Yeah, this was a 3D model. I honestly don't know which project. But all that, so this was inside the fire station. I think this was a past project. This is basically when I said above ceiling, this project didn't really have ceilings. It was an open bay for the fire station. Just to get an idea of what I typically coordinate above ceiling, all the green is ductwork, the yellow and the white are lights. You can see the red is fire protection, the blue pipes is plumbing. And this project was a little bit easier because it was all open bay. There wasn't constraints between ceiling and the next floor. But that's something that I did coordinate, but I would coordinate above ceiling. I think the next slide is an above ceiling.
Do you guys all know what coordination is when we talk coordination? Coordination is we have all our MEPs above the ceiling. We're ceiling heights and structure height. We have to fit it all in there. And this is all done and mapped out before we even start putting our first pipe up.
Just like in our class, my classroom, and I removed the recess tile, and there's a bunch of stuff up there, yeah? Someone say yes.
Yes.
Okay, this is what this guy does. He makes sure that it's there, and in the right spot, going the right way, looking high.
Nothing ever fits.
Nothing ever fits. This model here shows, you probably can't tell, but all the blue is going through the green's ductwork, the blue is plumbing pipe. Obviously can't have that. That's how we got the project from the architect and engineers, and it's basically on me and the subs, the plumbing, HVAC, those subs, to figure it out. So we have weekly meetings via Zoom, go through it, talk about who's going to move what where, to make it all work inside the ceiling.
So essentially it's a map of where they're putting their pipe or duct or whatever it is. Go ahead.
Where does this come in the whole process? Like, do you build a frame and then set this up and then start working on whatever? Like how far in the construction process?
The coordination piece?
The beginning
of
the
setting
section.
this stuff.
Yeah, so typically I'd get a model from the architect, like when he has a model for plans that we bid and stuff, I'd get the 3D model from him. And then we go to the subcontractors, our plumbing, our HVAC, our fire protection, electrical and structural teams, and they would develop a 3D model that I would put into the 3D architectural model. And from that point, we start coordination. So a lot of the times, ideally, we're not even on site yet. I'm getting the project before we're excavating the ground to do underground. I'm already coordinating, and I already have that done. Because the goal for me is to have everything coordinated before they need it on site. So we know this is going to work before they're even building walls, before they even have a ceiling. We know it's going to work, and then I'm on a project a lot less than these guys. These guys will see it through. I'm on the project for the first 3, 4, 5 months, maybe depending on the size of it. And then after I get coordinated, I kick it to them, and I'm on to the next group of projects.
Go ahead.
If you could say you could change what you guys took for a major,
knowing that this is what you're gonna do? Was there like another major you guys would have chosen?
For me, no. I think what my major I chose gave me the opportunities, whether some bad opportunities, because out of a bad opportunity always comes a good opportunity. To kind of develop my path to where I become what I am. So I don't regret any decision I've made. But no, I probably wouldn't change. I don't know what you guys.
I'm in the same boat. I probably wouldn't change anything, even though I'm in school for architecture and I'm not actually doing any architecture. These programs, the 3D programs and stuff, the CAD, Revit is another one, and then this is Navisworks. I learned all that in college. So I was given the opportunity to be the coordinator because I had a background in all that software. I didn't have to take a class or anything. I took a refresher because it was years since I used it, but like I had a background in all of that. Knowing how to read a plan and all that stuff, like I knew because I was drawing stuff like that in school, so I kind of had a little bit of upfront knowledge on what I was going to be, doing for the rest of my career.
I was working for a bigger company compared to smaller ones because around here is one of the smallest most of us
Yeah, that is a very good question. I think I need parents, by the way. I enjoyed it. It provides more opportunity. Not like smaller companies around here. They don't travel as much. When I say travel, it's not out of state, but Boston. We're a big company, but we still have a small company feel. That's what we pitch to all owners. That some bigger companies that you're just another number at Dellbrook. We have a big company, but we're not just another number. We care about everybody. And the owner of our company knows everybody's 200 plus names. I mean, he can walk up and say hi to anybody.
And our kids' names.
And our kids' names. So
Yeah.
we have that. I mean, the smaller companies, a lot of ones around here are high-end home builders, which is a great industry to be in. Trust me, a lot of money in that industry too. The bigger company gives you more opportunities, more relationships. And when I say opportunities, I mean a lot of relationships that you can develop. I hope that answers your question.
How long would it take to say your name like that?
So coordinating something like this was another one of your projects actually. The Shields Natick, I think it was. I think that was about 2 months to coordinate this one. It was a medical office building, essentially. It was a little bit easier to do this one. Basically, when you're doing a coordination project, like your corridors are your main pinch points because you have everything in your corridors. You kind of break off your ductwork and your plumbing pipes and fire pipes into specific rooms. This was basically like a big circle or rectangular corridor, and the rooms were in the middle. So once we coordinated the corridor, it was a lot easier. That was about 2 or 3 months.
Right. How about Oxford? They have the size of that. How long is that?
Yeah, Oxford, the new construction went real fast. And then we had the renovation was a little bit different because we have to take, it's not all about the model at that point. You're taking existing conditions that you know in real life are there or not there. I would say that was another 2 or 3 months.
So typical 2 to 3 months. Some projects, like the $190 million housing project is.
Yeah, I've been on that one for a year. But there was just so much to that. That project was so big, it's just taken us so long to get through it. Because at the end of the day, Greg's mentioned the teams. You have 100 guys on site, girls and guys on site building. I'm only working with one designer for that company. So that one person is doing the $190 million project. The plumber, the one guy for HVAC, one guy for fire protection. I don't have a team of 10, 20 people that I'm working with. It's one person for each trade. So they can only get through so much drawing and fixing and adjusting, in a week. If we're having 1 or 2 meetings a week, they can only do so much to get through that project because it's not the only project they're on either. They're working for other GCs, they're working on other projects for us that they need to dedicate time to as well. So it's, little bites of the apple, but that project's so big construction-wise that we have time to get to the other areas before we build them and it's too late. Because once you build it, obviously me coordinating it is, it's putting the cart before the horse. So I need to get to it before we have it on site.
Which part of it do you use in terms of like fire protection, electric, or plumbing?
That's a good question. We usually start with your gravity-fed piping, plumbing, like your rain leaders coming from the roof, drains, because all that stuff needs to be pitched at a certain percentage. So that stuff can't really move as easily as like your supply pipe for your sink. You know, your hot and cold water, that can move up and down because it's being pushed through the system, not draining through the system. That and ductwork. Ductwork, as you can see, is the green. That's the biggest pieces that you're working with. That's your taking up the most ceiling space, both depth and width. But you have a little bit more, you can see all the twists and turns that the green's doing. But the blue, the dark blue piping, is less twists and turns. It's more like L-shaped because you can only do so much with that. You're running out of space when you're pitching at, I think it's an 1/8 inch for every foot.
When you're subcontracting out, do you go towards like unions and bigger companies, or do you go towards like local, smaller companies that you already have?
Yeah, that's a good question. So depending on where we are, if we're working in and around Boston, you know, the unions control most of that work in there, so we try to partner with unions. If the owner wants to pay, you know, there is a cost premium to work with it. If we're on the island and the owner says, hey, I want to get some local tradesmen, there's not as many out there that do this type of work, but we will go out to local trades as well. We do, most of our subcontractors are open shop, meaning non-union, but we do work with union as well.
What do you think was the rewarding aspect of your project?
What's that, rewarding?
Yeah.
Rewarding would be the day that the owner takes over the project and said, we're signed off, we got our certificate of occupancy, they can move in. And you look at a completion of a project where it might have been a year construction, but there was probably a year that went into it before. So I've been with it for 2 years. These guys are in the trenches on a daily basis, grinding out. You know, there's ups and downs on every project, and they're grinding it out. And I'm sure they'll tell you the same thing. Is that project completion, you're pretty proud of what you did. And then, you know, I drive around all the time when I'm driving, and I point out to my kids like, hey, I did that job, I did this job, I did that. You know, and they're pretty impressed about that.
Do you get a finishing bonus? Every time you finish a job, you get a bonus?
No, we used to do that. It all becomes year-end bonuses now. It got too tricky because projects are finishing, starting all the time. So it's you do a good job on a project, you know, you do a good job that year on the other projects too. The bonuses can range, but it's a year-end.
How do people like reach out to you guys to
Make, you know, a lot of ours are relationships, so they've already had that relationship. Typically, we have a business development department where there's, you know, a couple people in that department, and then they reach out to the executives like myself to say, I have a job. We'll hear a lot through the grapevine. I mean, there's owner project managers too, so that an owner project manager works just for the owner, makes sure that he's helping the owner through the process he needs to go through. So we have relationships. It's all relationship based.
Is that how you end up working with the craft?
Yes. Yep. That was a relationship that one of our VPs had. We did a project a long time ago that one of the Crafts was partners with. We did a good job on that job. That led to another smaller job, which led to a house, which led to working at Gillette Stadium, and so on.
Guys, if you are in a class right now, I want you to go to your class. If you are in lunch, I would like for you to stay and continue to ask questions.
Going back.
Mr. Souza.
I gotta hear it 3D versus 2D.
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, so I do a lot of, most of the work we do now is 3D, which is this. Like when you get down to it, you can actually like walk through the ceiling space and see everything. And that uses a different program than like your typical 2D. 2D, you don't have the one extra dimension. So it's looking like you're looking at a set of plans on paper, and you're just seeing lines and boxes drawn. And we rely on the subcontractor to show his bottom of duct elevation and top of duct elevation. So, you know, his bottom of duct would be 9 foot, top of duct would be 9.6. So now I know that if another trade's in that same area, he either has to be below 9 feet or above 9.6. It takes a lot more time. I hate it. I wish we never had to do 2D anymore, because literally with 3D, I can click a couple buttons and it will highlight every single location where one trade is touching another trade. It'll tell me where the issues are, as opposed to me having to play like Where's Waldo and find all of them on a sheet of paper. This is a lot more user-friendly, and we pick up a lot more classes with this because, like I said, the program tells you where they are.
Any other questions?
What's the software you use for this?
So this program here is called Navisworks. It's in the family of AutoCAD. Revit is a program that they came out with 10 years ago that's 3D based. It takes an element out of CAD when you're drawing, like you would in CAD. I don't know if you're familiar with CAD. When you're drawing in Revit, you're giving it its depth. You're adding in that third dimension. So then instead of having to draw a floor plan in CAD and then your elevations in CAD separately, you draw your floor plan in Revit and it populates your elevations. So when you do a window, you draw a window and then you say, all right, this window is 36 inches wide by 5 feet tall. And then on your plan, it just looks like a window. But then when you click elevation, it flips it and then you can see your elevation, everything kind of populates itself. And all of that reads in Navisworks. Navisworks is not a design tool, it's more of it's a user tool to see what you're doing in 3D. It's a navigation tool.
So, subcontract, like your engine operators, or do you have people on payroll or
You talking like excavation?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't sub to the operator, we subcontract to the site company. So there's a lot of site companies we work with, we sub directly with them, and then they have the tradesmen, the operators beyond that.
Well, a lot of times a mechanical company will hire a crane company, so if you were the operator of a crane, you work directly for a crane company. That HVAC company, who we hired, would sub the crane to come out to the site on that day, bring something up to the roof or something like that.
I just wanted to bring up this slide just to see, you know, all of the opportunities available in the construction industry. It's not just, you know, the management side and the field operation side. You know, there's professional services and pre-construction teams that all make up, you know, and ultimately the building at the end of the day. So there's a lot of, you know, pre-construction or prerequisites all the way through to the management side and the people that back us, you know, our accountants, so on and so forth.